Student Scholars in association with Goa Headmasters Association.
Children, this is teacher Maria Nita de Rosario Gomes from Pope John 23rd High School, Cape. The topic we are going to learn today is a grammar topic. We are going to learn about verbs, conjugation of verbs, and tenses. So before we attack the main topic, children, we need to know the basic concepts that are connected to this main topic. Now, verbs by itself is predominantly the most important grammar topic to answer any grammar questions, as well as it is useful in our writing skills. Having said that, children, verbs as accommodated with other grammar topics from examination point of view is with the modified question paper is question 6 in your examination paper. It is a part of section C. To be more specific, a question on verbs and tenses will come in question 6F only. That does not go to say verbs and tenses is not a part of the other part of the grammar questions. That I will deal with you when I handle the other grammar questions separately. Let us begin with the topic, verbs and tenses. In between, to understand tenses, we need to understand the conjugation of verbs. What are the other subtopics, children, I'm going to deal with? Person and number, subject pronouns and object pronouns. What is a verb? How to identify a verb, subject and object in a sentence. What do we understand by regular verbs as well as irregular verbs? I will also, in brief, talk about main verbs and helping verbs. To reach the conjugation of verbs, we also need to understand the principal parts of the verbs. Then, we need to talk about tense. What do we understand by tense? By tense, we mean reference of verb to time. And finally, we will get to our main topic, that is conjugation of verbs and how to use different tenses based on the time phrases. Finally, to connect all that I've revised and taught, I will take you to the exercise that is from examination point of view. Till last year, the question pattern that you had was fill in the blanks with suitable form of verb. But post-COVID-19, the question paper is modified, has gone through a little change, and therefore, henceforth, the question on verb forms or tenses will come as fill in the blank by choosing the correct alternatives given below. Let's begin. As I said before I go to the verbs, I would like to revise a few topics. And the first topic I want to revise is person and number. To reach person and number, let us first revise what is a noun. You've learnt it in class 5, class 4, class 6, time and again, what is a noun? A noun is a word used as a name of person, place, or thing. It is a name. Anita eats an apple. Anita is a name, apple is a name. These are called nouns. Now, when we want to talk more about a noun, we do not repeat the same noun again and again. We replace it. We use another word. That is what is called a pronoun. So a pronoun is used, it is a word used instead of a noun. I don't want to say Anita eats an apple. I don't want to repeat Anita, but I want to talk more about Anita. So I will say she likes eating it. She will represent the noun Anita. It will represent the noun apple. So words that replace a noun are called pronouns. Now children, look at these examples. I am young. You are young. He, she, it is young. We are young. You are young. What is I, you, he, she, it, we, and they? They are pronouns. Now that you have understood the base, what is a noun, what is a pronoun, I will take you further. We have personal pronouns, we have subject pronouns. We also have more pronouns, which I will not deal here. I will only deal with subject pronouns and object pronouns in my next slide. Now, in this slide, let us understand what are personal pronouns. Why did I take subject pronoun here? Because personal pronoun and subject pronouns are one and the same. What do I mean by personal pronouns? By personal pronouns, I mean they are used to define the person who is speaking. Under personal pronouns, we have only three persons. The first person, the second person, and the third person. By first person in an English language, I mean the person speaking. Now here I am speaking. So first person, that is the person speaking, is I. Then we have under personal pronouns, second person. Who is second person? Second person is the person spoken to. I am speaking to you. So second person is you. And then in an English language, we have the third person. So who is the third person? The person spoken of. I am speaking to you about somebody. That is the third person. Who is spoken of? That is, if he is a male, that is masculine, we use he. For a feminine or a female, we use she. And if it is referring to things, we use it. Having told you about the three persons, first person, second person, and third person, please understand the persons, like nouns, have number. So what do I mean by number? By number, I mean there is singular and plural. If I want to talk about one table, I will say table. But if I want to talk about more than one or two and more, I will say tables. That means, in the case of nouns, we have numbers, singular and plural. Similarly, in person, there is number. There are singular persons. We also have plural persons. Now let us see what it means. I, first person singular, is used or is referred to one. If I want to talk about more than one, I will use the first person plural. That is, I changes in the plural form we. You is second person singular. And in its plural form, second person you remains you. So it is not repeated. You in singular form, second person is you, and remains same in second person plural form also. When we want to talk about the third person, that is the person spoken of in singular form, we will identify if we are talking about he, a male, she, a female, it, that is thing, or if we are talking about many, we will use third person plural they. So as the pronouns, personal pronouns have person, we have to understand the verb also has the three persons. That is why we need to learn about the conjugation of verbs, how it is connected with the person. Having said that, children, let us move on to the next. We need to learn about verbs, children, especially because when you use a verb, the verb has to match with the subject as well as it has to coordinate with the time you want to talk about in that sentence. That is how verbs make the base of any grammar lesson. Let's come back to the topic. We have subject pronouns, we have object pronouns. We learned what are personal pronouns, used to refer the three persons. The first person, second person, and the third person. Now, why and what are subject pronouns and object pronouns? I told you there is a big chart we can have on pronouns, but I'm only identifying personal pronouns, subject pronouns, and object pronouns in my briefing for today. Now, subject pronouns are pronouns which are used in the subject of the verb and of the sentence, sorry. And object pronouns are pronouns used in the object of the sentence. What do I mean by subject pronouns used in the subject of the sentence? Please do not misunderstand. Subject means what comes before the verb and object means what comes after the verb. Do not misunderstand this concept. When I say these are the pronouns that are used in the subject of the sentence and these are the pronouns used in the object of the sentence, I mean these pronouns will be used to signify the doer of the action and these will signify the action done on them. And for identification, we will ask, or pronouns will answer simple question. Who is the person doing that action will be answered by the subject question. Action is done on whom will answer the object pronouns. I eat an apple. Who is the doer of the action? I. What do I eat? The apple. It. So subject pronouns will come in the subject of the sentence and object pronouns will come in the object of the sentence. The next slide will give you a better understanding. First, let us understand, before I go to identification of subject and object, what is a verb? Verb is a doing word. It is an action word. Action may be physical action. Action may be mental action, or action may be a state of being. All three define the word verb. Physical action, I mean action physically done. Sells, writes or wrote. Mental, guessed. Action is happening in the mind. Thought. A state of being means Kylie Jenner is the youngest billionaire in the world. Is state of being. It was a cold day today. State of being. So the use of sell, wrote, guessed, taught, is, was, these are verbs, but used. Sells and wrote is used as a physical action. Guessed and taught is used as a mental action. Is and was is used to signify a state of being. Now getting back to the subject and object pronouns and how to identify subject, verb, object. Having the sentence, Anita eats an apple. I told you, children, do not misunderstand. Anything that comes before the verb is a subject, and anything that comes after the verb is object. This is not the way you need to understand what is subject, what is object. To understand what is subject and object, we first need to identify the action word, that is the verb. Anita eats an apple. Where is the action word? Eats. It's a physical action. So you identify eats as verb. Now, to identify subject and object, you simply need to ask two questions. Who eats? Or apple is eaten by whom? So the answer to question who and by whom will tell you the subject in the sentence. And asking a question with the verb, it's what? The answer to the question what will give you the object of a sentence. So please remember a very important question that I will use. The same, what you are understanding now, will be required later on when I'm teaching you active and passive. You will not be able to proceed in the understanding of active and passive until and unless you understand the base of understanding how to identify subject, verb, object. So I suppose you have understood how to identify subject, verb, object. Verb is you identify the action word in the sentence. To identify subject, you have two questions. You either ask who with the subject, or you ask by whom. And answers to these two questions tells you the subject of the sentence. And answer to question what tells you the object in the sentence. Not at all times you will have this structure, subject, verb, object. I hope you know, children, there are different types of sentences. Assertive, interrogative, imperative, exclamatory. I am referring to today to a simple assertive sentence. The framework, the structure of a simple assertive sentence is subject plus verb plus object. But it can also be otherwise. The object can come first. Therefore, I am consistently telling you what comes before the verb is not the subject, and what comes after the verb is not the object. It is simply answering of these two questions. Who does the action, or by whom is the action done, will give you the subject. What will give you the answer to the object. Let us move ahead, identifying the use of subject pronouns and object pronouns. I told you when I don't want to repeat the nouns, I will use pronouns. Anita eats an apple. I want to write more about Anita. She plays football. Now I have replaced Anita in my example to she. Action, plays. Plays what? Football. Where is the subject? Where is the object? Where is the verb? Action, physical action is taking place. And physical action here is plays. I have identified the verb. Now let me identify what is the subject. Who plays? She plays. So answer to my question, who is the subject? So she in the sentence is the subject. Plays what? Answer to question what? Here is football. So football in this sentence is the object. I change further by using pronouns, that is subject pronoun and object pronoun. She plays football. Continue writing, she likes it. I've replaced football by object pronoun. How do I know it's an object pronoun? Let's ask questions. It is used as a subject pronoun as well as an object pronoun. Having said that, let's answer the question. Where is the verb? Likes. Likes is a mental action. Now, who likes? She likes. So she is the subject in this sentence. She likes. Likes what? Likes eat. Object pronoun, which refers to the game of football. So when I don't want to write a noun, I replace it by pronouns, number one. Number two, I identify subject, verb, objects first. I identify the verb on the basis of what is a verb, action word. How do I identify subject and object in the sentence? Subject by asking two questions. Who and by whom? How do I identify object? By asking question what? What are subject pronouns and what are object pronouns? Subject pronouns are those that come in the place of the subject, which I mean by it answers question who or by whom. And object pronouns come in the place of object. I mean, it answers question what. So I suppose your doubts are completely cleared. Now what I want to take you to is the statement I kept repeating. It is not the case that subject always comes before the verb and object always comes after the verb. Look at this sentence now. It is not mandatory that every sentence structure is first the subject, second verb, and then object. No, look at this sentence. Football is played by Anita. Now you will understand what I'm referring to. Where is the action word here? Is played. So is played is my verb. Now ask the question who? Who plays? We don't have an answer in this sentence. But played by whom? We have an answer. So look at the subject. Where is it? Is it in the place of the subject that is before the verb? No way. So subject has shifted in the place of the object. That doesn't mean the structure is shifted. The understanding of the subject is shifted. Subject is after the verb in this case. But answers my question by whom. And is played by whom? Anita, subject. Played what? Football. Answers my question of the object. But the structure is not subject, verb, object. Object has come first, verb has come next, and subject has gone last. So please do not, for your understanding, at all times keep it in your mind, the structure in every sentence is subject, verb, object. I can also use just one verb to make my sentence. Laugh, run, it's also a sentence. That's why I'm not dealing with the different types of sentences at this point of time. I'm only talking about a structure of a sentence. Let's move to the next slide. Because I want to connect you with the verbs, conjugations and tenses. We've understood what are verbs. Verb is a word that talks to you about action done. Now, verbs can be regular verbs, irregular verbs. Verbs can be main verbs or helping verbs. So children, let us understand what are regular verbs. Until we understand these concepts, regular verbs, irregular verbs, helping verbs, main verbs, we will not very comfortably have an understanding of conjugation. What are regular verbs? That is how I have introduced the word conjugation. When you conjugate a verb, by conjugation I mean when you try to change the infinitive form of the verb to match with the subject in a sentence, regular verbs stop being in the infinitive. When you conjugate, its infinitive form is lost. I will deal with infinitive a little later. At this point of time, I will only tell you this much. Infinitive means original form or spelling of the verb. They do not change its root. What is the meaning of root? Root is the base spelling, the dictionary spelling of a verb. Let us consider the verb bake. This is the root of the verb. This is the infinitive form of the verb. As it is, as it is. Nothing is added to it, no ed, no es, ing, nothing is added. You are not touching the spelling, the root. So I hope you understand what is infinitive or what is the meaning of root, the dictionary spelling. Now, what are regular verbs? Regular verbs follow a pattern when you want to conjugate it. And what is that pattern? When you want to make it simple past, if the verb is ending with E, the rule tells you just add one D there and it will become past. Bake, baked is its past. For example, if it is not ending with E, let us take the other example, start. In that case, the regular pattern to form simple past of a regular verb is add ed. So what is the regular pattern? To change the root to its past form. If it is ending with E, add D. If it is not ending with E, add ed. The root, if you have understood, B-A-K-E remained as it is. S-T-A-R-T, the root remained as it is. These are identified as regular verbs. And irregular verbs are those verbs when you are conjugating them, they will completely change or alter its root form, which means in simple understanding, they will change its spelling altogether. If have was a regular verb, the regular pattern would have been we just add a D. So it would have been haved. It is not a regular verb. So what do I mean by change or alter its root form? See the spelling, it has completely changed, H-A-D. Look here, right. If it was a regular verb, the actual pattern would have been E is there, so just add D, write it. But no, it's not a regular verb. So what has happened? Its root has completely changed. The entire spelling has changed. From right, it became root. So I suppose you've understood very clearly what are regular verbs and what are irregular verbs. Regular verbs, to get conjugated, to change its form, keep the base as it is, and there is a regular pattern to follow. In the case of irregular verbs, to conjugate it, they completely change, they completely alter its root. The entire spelling is changed. Therefore, children, it is very imperative that you learn the list of irregular verbs. Now, a brief understanding on what are main verbs and what are helping verbs. By main verb, I mean it is the most important verb. The other name for it is principal verb. And it's the most important verb in a sentence because it shows the action or state of being of the subject. Anita eats an apple. It comes alone. It's one word. It directly tells you the action of the subject in that sentence. Anita eats. Suppose I take it the other way around. Anita likes eating apple. It is the main verb, but is come in this particular sentence with a helping verb likes, which means helping verbs are used to extend the meaning of the main verb. Main verb comes alone as a principal word, identifies the action done by the subject in that sentence. Main verb is clear to you. So helping verb comes as a helper to the main verb. And the most common helping verbs are verb to be, verb to have, verb to do, verb to like. Common. We also have 9 modal verbs. We have in our English grammar a topic on modals. That is again a connected part of verbs. We have reported speech connected with the topic of verbs. We have active and passive again connected because it is the part of the verb family. So having said that, children, these 9 modal verbs can, could, may, might, must, shall, should, will, would, all these children are used as helping verbs also. Let us move on now to the next slide. And that is, again, before we go to conjugation, we need to understand the principal parts of the verbs. A verb has 4 principal parts. I was referring to infinitive. Now I will explain to you in details what is infinitive again. The second part, principal part of the verb is past simple. The third principal part of the verb is past participle. The fourth principal part of the verb is present participle. Now, I've separated the list of regular verbs and irregular verbs. The 4 principal parts of the regular verbs, let us understand. We've already understood what is regular verbs. It has a pattern. The root doesn't change. Look here. What is infinitive? Infinitive of this verb absorb. Infinitive means the dictionary form of the verb or the original form of the verb. No ed, no ing or no es is added here. And also depends if you are conjugating this verb and connecting it to the personal pronoun, you cannot call it infinitive. Like, for example, I absorb. I absorb. You have used absorb with the first person. You cannot say, there is no s added here, no ed, no ing, and therefore you call it the infinitive form. No. But if you use it, I like to absorb. You've used it with to plus the infinitive form. So its usage also determines whether it is infinitive use or not infinitive use. So simple understanding, infinitive means in its dictionary form, in its virgin form, in its original form, the verb remains. Now, in the case of regular verbs, we've already learned there is a pattern to make simple past. And the pattern is, if the verb is not ending with E, you add ed, you get your past. If the verb is ending with E, you add only d, get your past. Second understanding is, children, past simple of a regular verb is the same as the past participle also. So in the case of regular verbs, past simple and past participle will be the same. But what is present participle? That is the fourth principal part of the verb, present participle. We also call present participle in common English the ing form. What do we call it? The ing form. So, you take the infinitive form of the verb absorb and add ing to make the present participle. But there are rules you need to follow. I'm not going to go into the intricacies of it, but I will show you one small example. Like, for example, behave, bake. You take the infinitive, you drop the E. You drop the E before putting ing. In the irregular verbs, I will also show you how the last letter gets doubled. So these rules, children, out of this topic, please do your homework and refer. So I suppose you are very clear with the four principal parts of the verbs in the case of regular verbs. You have the infinitive, which is the original dictionary spelling. You've got the past simple that follows a pattern that d or ed gets added. And in the case of regular verbs, the past simple and the past participle is the same. And then you've got the present participle where ing gets added. You need to obey the rule when you're putting the ing to the root of the verb. Very clear? Can I go to the next slide now? Let's move on. Look at these. Decide, decided, deciding. E is dropped before ing is put. So there is a list which you can stop, halt and copy in your books when you are going through this video at leisure at home. I've got more examples of principal parts of the verbs in the case of the regular verb list. I've just picked 2 or 3 in each verb. There are more, children. You can Google them and find them out for yourself, or do reference with any grammar book. Now, I would like to take you on with the list of irregular verbs. In the case of principal parts of the verb, again, infinitive, past simple, past participle, present participle. Nothing changes with the principal parts of the verb. just because they are irregular verbs. No. All four forms are same. Infinitive, past simple, past participle and present participle. But look at the pattern how it happens. In the case of irregular verbs, when I explained to you there are regular verbs and irregular verbs, I told you regular verbs follow a pattern and irregular verbs change the entire root, the base, in order to form its past simple. Therefore, children, you need to learn the irregular verbs by heart. You need to know the four principal parts of the irregular verbs by heart. Like, for example, be is the infinitive form. What is the infinitive form we said? The dictionary spelling, the original form of the verb. Now, be is one of the most irregular verbs. It just changes all its spellings. It alters completely when you conjugate it. For example, be in its present form, present simple, is am, is, are. I am, you are, he, she, it is. And in its past simple form, it is was or were. Complete spelling change. Why? Because it comes in the list of irregular verb. That means it doesn't follow a pattern, it alters its root completely, the base completely, which means in simple language, changes the spelling completely. And therefore you need to learn things by heart. Now, in the case of regular verbs, children, we learnt past simple and past participle of regular verbs is identical, but no more in irregular verbs. Was, were, past participle is being. Present participle, yes, more or less the same pattern. Not more or less, but the same pattern. Exception is some rules. You take the infinitive, be, and put ing. Look at the second one. Become is the infinitive form. To make it a simple past, I told you the spelling has changed. Became. Past participle is different from past simple. Become. To make ing, that is present participle form, we deleted the e and put ing. So follow the rules. Having said that, let us go to the third verb, begin. In the case of simple past, it is changed its spelling, not followed any rule, began. Past participle again changed its spelling, began. Now look here what I was referring to. This n has doubled here. Follow the rule to convert it into the present participle, that is the ing. In this case, why this n has doubled, children? Simply because there is a vowel before the last letter of alphabet. So when there is a vowel before the last letter of alphabet, in its forming of present participle, you double the last letter and then add ing. Can, could, been, able to. Now children, these are the verbs that you need to learn by heart. I have a list of them. I want you to go through it. Here see, get, got, even gotten can be here. And T doubles and gets ing. Children, let me just take you back to those helping verbs that I was talking about. Verb to be, verb to have, verb to do, verb to like. Children, please remember, the helping verbs are not all the time only helping verbs. No. They can also be used as main verbs also. may not be the 9 nodal verbs. They will remain to be helping verbs. But I was talking about verb to be, verb to have, verb to do. You can have them as main verbs coming alone. I am a teacher, state of being. I've used am, verb to be. So here it's come as a main verb. I am eating my lunch. That same am is come as a helping verb to help the verb, main verb eat. So I suppose it is very crystal clear to you what are regular verbs, what are principal parts of the verb, what are irregular verbs, what are the principal parts of the irregular verb, how they change their root form, how they change their forms from the infinitive. You have also understood what are main verbs, how they come alone. They are also known as principal verbs. What are helping verbs? Helping verbs like verb to be, verb to have, verb to do, verb to like may come alone, and when they come alone, they will come as main verbs and not at all the times. They are only helping verbs. I have 10 books. I have used have as the main verb. I have eaten my lunch. In my second sentence, I used have as a helping verb to the main verb eat. Very clear?